Hi and welcome to the third lesson in the series. My name is Martin from OLeads and today we're going to be talking about market research. Before we do that, however, please hit that like and subscribe button as it helps to get more eyeballs to our content. With that out of the way, let's get started. When we do market research, we want to determine market potential. And so what we need to find out is who are our main competitors and who will buy our products. In order to do market research properly, however, you'll need to understand a core concept first. You see, in business development and marketing, you have what they call red ocean markets and blue ocean markets. This is a fancy way of saying existing markets and new markets. Please note that we're talking about markets here, not products. Let me illustrate this by naming a few examples of blue ocean markets. Cars, or to be specific, electric cars, were not invented by Tesla. As a matter of fact, some of the earliest prototype cars were electric. However, what Tesla did is through clever marketing, messaging and branding create a new market for an existing product. Another great example is Apple with their tablets and iPhones. Both products weren't new nor invented by Apple, but the market they found for that product was new. Now most people who sell on Amazon are focused on the product itself. And the fact of the matter is that they end up competing in a red ocean market, which in turn means that the only way they can compete is competition based on pricing. Now looking at the exercise bands we've used as a possible product in the past two videos, this is a typical example of a red ocean market, and I know that about 90% of the products on Amazon are. And it's no coincidence that the fail rate on Amazon is also in the 90% range. Remember, the key to becoming successful lies not in finding of great or new products, but in identifying and targeting a unique audience. So in this lesson, we're going to be covering the basics of researching the market and in doing so, trying to find an audience to sell to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've opened a few tabs on the Amazon.com website and I will proceed to type in a few of the best ranking keywords. These are the keywords from previous lessons, so please watch the previous videos before you step into this one. So I'm going to pick the following three short tail keywords. The first one being resistance bands. Okay, let's type that in. Resistance bands or band, it's fine. Okay. Go to the next tab. The second one is exercise band or bands. Okay, and the third one is training bands. Training bands. Now you can do more if you like, but I found that by using the three main and the highest ranking keywords, you'll get a good look at who the main players are in the market. It's more than enough data to go along with, okay? Now what I will do next is that I'll write down and count all the brands I find on the first page of each keyword. Okay, so I just scroll down and I just write down and note which brands are occurring on the first page and how many times they occur. So I went ahead and filled in the data in an Excel sheet. And it's clear that on Amazon the three main players are Whatafit, FitSimplify, and Let's Fit. Now you can and should expand your research to Google, Etsy, Mercado, eBay, and basically any other platform you wish or should sell on. And it is something I usually do when I do my own research. But for the sake of keeping things manageable time-wise, as well as clear to understand, I just stick with Amazon for now. Now what's great about this file is the fact that it's simple and easy to read. For instance, the first brand on the list is the first brand I saw on the search result on the first page for the highest volume keyword. And it's very important to be on the first page, preferably above the fold. Now, in case you don't know what it means to be above the fold, it basically means what is in view before you scroll down the page. So let me show you on the website of Amazon. Basically, when you type in a keyword, let me scroll up. This, if you follow my mouse, is above the fold. Okay, so the moment you have to scroll down, it means you're below the fold. And people are lazy, so the further you're down on the first page, let alone the second page, it basically means your chances of making a sale are lower. Okay? But just as important as showing up on the first page is how many times you show up on that first page, especially with a product like this where competition is high. Because people don't buy the first thing they see. It usually takes an average of 8 touches or contact moments before people will even consider you. However, if your listing shows up at the top of the first page and your listing shows up a couple of more times below on the first page, then it's likely that people will buy your product. As when people are on Amazon, they are already in buy mode and all it takes is a little nudge. Now, if we go back to the Excel sheet, you see that I tracked multiple keywords people look for. Resistance bands, exercise bands, and training bands. And the reason I did this is because it's important that you track multiple keywords, because it shows how widespread a brand is. If a brand only ranks on one keyword, I don't consider it a developed brand or competition. For instance, if we look at CFX, the second one on the list, it has shown up only once, and only on a main keyword, which means it's probably an ad, but definitely it's not a real competitor. I don't consider them as a competitor because there's virtually no other presence there whatsoever. As a matter of fact, if we scroll down to the bottom, so let us scroll down to the bottom of this page, or this file rather. Okay, so I think you can see this, yeah. You see that there are 17 brands that are ranking organically on a less competitive keyword, being training bands. I consider these brands to be more of a competitor than CFX, simply because they rank organically, they weren't ads. And they may very well be the new and up-and-coming big shots. Remember, every big name, brand or company started small, insignificantly so. And also remember that anyone with a bit of money can start a paid for marketing campaign and get on top of a page very quickly. Very few actually do the work and get there organically. Other than that, you can see that there are a total of 77 brands you have to compete with on the first page alone. Now you might also have seen that I put an asterisk next to some of the entries. Right? If you see my mouse here, you can see I'm hovering over it. These were listings that stood out to me, and we will address these listings in the lesson on product research. Now I've realized that I've said this before, but it bears repeating. Keyword, market, and product research are not separate entities. I only separated them to explain them apart from each other so you can understand these things better. Now, before we get to the next section, I'm going to explain how to work this file if you decide to research the markets on Google and other platforms. Now, within this Excel sheet, I've included a worksheet called Best Brands. Right, so if you see my mouse here, Best Brands, and it's in the same Excel sheet. Okay, so I'm going to click on it now. Click on it. Okay, yeah. Here on this sheet, I basically compiled all the data into one overview. How it works is actually very simple. First, let me clear all the fields so we can start from scratch. So let us select all of these fields and just hit delete. Okay, the first thing we will do is we'll start filling in the brands under the column brand name. All you have to do is enter the first cell or the second line here, double click and press the equal sign, right? Then you go to the sheet with the data you want to copy. So I'm going back to the Amazon page. I'm going to scroll up. Select the first name on the list, right? So scroll up all the way. You see it, it highlights it now, and I just press enter. See, what it did is basically it took this code and it entered it here, right? So, and now all you have to do is drag the lower right corner. So you see, if I hover over it, it has this white plus sign. It has a move sign here, but once it turns black, click and drag all the way down. Now I know it's 78 lines, so I'm going to scroll to 78 lines. And it fills it in automatically, okay? Now, we're going to do the same for the score. So again, click on the first line, double click, equals, right? Go back to the first page and go here on the top of the sheet, first line, highlight it, hit enter, and it copied over the score. Again, go down to the right, lower right corner until it turns black and scroll down all the way. Easy peasy, Japanesey, Bob's your uncle. Now, if you're going to use this file and research multiple marketplaces to get a better view of your competition, then you might face the following issues. Number one, you may come across the same brand and wonder how to add the score to the total score on the best brands worksheet. And number 2, you may also wonder how to add a new brand to the list. Now for problem number 1, all you do is add the total first page hits to the total score. And you can do that very simply by entering the cell with the score on the best brands worksheet, and after the formula just hit spacebar and enter the plus sign on your keyboard and then proceed to the field on the score you want to add. Okay, so let me show you. So I've prepared some dummy data on the first page here on Google, and let's say we want to add a score of 7, right? So let's say you found 7 hits on the first page of Google for Whatafit, but you want to add this score to the Whatafit existing score. Okay, now all you do, so let me click outside of this, all you do is you double click on this field, and at the end, after F4, press spacebar, then plus, okay, then go to the first page hits here, to the page you want to copy. We know it's Whatafit, so we go to Whatafit and we go to this score. You just have to click it once and you hit enter. See it? 15 plus 7, 22, right? Very easy. Now, for the second problem, you simply scroll down. So the second problem being you want to add a new brand name to the list. Okay, so in order to solve that, you scroll down to the last cell in the best brand worksheet. So we scroll down to line 79. Okay, again we just enter it like we did with this example previously before. So we double click, hit the equal sign, then we go to the first page hits, then we say okay, okay, new brand Google, fine, hit enter, and it enters it here. Okay, now we also may want to add a score, so let's do that as well. Equals, go to totals, click on it once, when it just so that it highlights, hit enter, and it just copied over that data. Now it may happen that you duplicate certain values. For instance, if I go back to the first page hits Google, if the Whatafit brand is below the new brand Google and you have multiple entries, so you basically use the method we used earlier by clicking and dragging the entire range, it may happen that the brand name Whatafit becomes a duplicate. Okay, now don't get overexcited or think to make it too complicated. All you do is you make sure you copy the data, so the total hits, and you make sure, okay, let me scroll up, that it registers here, and then when the name comes over as well, which probably will be here then, before you do this, right, so when all data is complete, blah 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 blah, you just delete that line. Nothing will happen because you already added the score to the main entry. Okay, so again, it's very simple, but you need to take the time to set this up. All right, so I've put the link to this file in the description down below in case you want to use it, and I see you in the next section. Now the next step in research is to determine who is buying this product now, and perhaps uncover some hints as to find people who might be willing to buy but aren't doing so at this moment. Yes, I am talking about trying to develop a blue ocean market. Moreover, we need to understand the why. So why are people buying this product now? Also, we need to try and determine when. So when do people buy this particular product? This way we can determine a best launch date and how seasonal a product is or isn't. Now the absolute worst thing you can do is make assumptions or conclusions of any kind without having the data to back it up. Really try to keep an open mind and just let the data tell you what is what. Now again, normally I go through at least 10 listings, the 3 top ones for sure, as well as the few listings that caught my eye. But as I really don't want to make this a 10-hour lesson, I'm just going to stick with the brand, the top brand, Whatafit, for now. The best way to see who is buying this product is to go through the reviews. Let's do that right now. So, the first review I see is from a man named Richard. And let's read the review. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now when you read this review, you can find out a lot about him and also the products, obviously. Again, normally I also include product-related observations into my research, but as I want to explain the process, I keep things separate for now. So, let's turn on Sherlock mode. This man is former military, right? He has arthritis preventing him to work with weights, at least on his legs. We also can safely assume that this man wants to keep in good shape despite his pains, which shows a certain level of discipline and dedication, no doubt because of his history in the army. He also makes a remark about the fact that the bands that are being distributed by the VA are not great, which means we might have found a possible new market to sell into. Now, if you look at his public profile, which you can find when you click on this little icon here or on his name, we can see he is a stay-at-home dad from Orting, Washington, and that he is a born-again Christian, which may or may not be a result of his time in service. Now let's scan his profile even further by reading his reviews. Again, it's not so much about the products, but about what he reveals about himself. And you can do this for yourself as well, but I found out by just skimming through them that he operates 2 businesses, one of them being in real estate, and that his child is a son whom he games with from time to time. A lot of these things may not seem relevant to determine whether or not they will buy on an individual level, but they do become relevant on a larger scale if these data points reoccur often enough. So if the fact that someone is in the military reoccurs a lot, then it may be something of relevance. Okay? And this will also help you with your marketing efforts later on. Anyway, I went ahead, did some work and created a sheet myself to get in some more data points. Bear in mind that I did not really prune the data and that I just put in stuff that popped out. So when you do this yourself, the key thing to remember is that you start by putting in everything you notice, and later on, when you find that some things are not recurring often enough, you remove these and perhaps replace them with better and more often recurring data. So for instance, if I scroll down in this sheet, let me scroll down, I would remove all the ones and perhaps even the twos, and then later replace them with data that might be a 3 or a 4, and with the 3 or 4 I mean that it occurs 3 or 4 times over 50 subjects or reviewers. I realized that this process is a bit tedious, but the more data you put in, the better your data becomes, and your decision making regarding the product and your marketing will improve. So don't skimp out on doing the work. Now again, I did not do very elaborate research on this one, but I hope that the process I use is clear. Okay, so let me go through this entire sheet. Okay, so here on the top I basically typed in stuff that just popped out to me. Okay, and again you see, for instance, software developer, it only occurs once, so normally I would just delete this and replace it with a better piece of data. Okay, so don't be afraid to delete stuff, right? So I did about 26 character traits, and something like 3 short, like 47 people I sampled from. Okay, now I've made some empty sheets for you to use, so you can actually combine this data later on in the totals. I also have included when people purchased. Okay, now the data might be a bit skewed due to COVID, right? So because a lot of people ordered stuff in April and May, but if your data pool becomes big enough, right? So if you include 2018, 2017, then I think that it will basically nullify the effects of COVID. Okay, for instance, you see already that in September a lot of people ordered. Okay, so this is very important to know. For instance, if people only order in April, then your product is highly seasonable. Okay, and that means that you will only sell in April, which makes it a bit hard to sell, because things take time to really sell. But if I look at this, except for maybe January, it sells throughout the year. Okay, now I also included a tab with all the states. I even included like an RV, because I saw one of the customers lived in an RV, and I forgot Washington DC because I assumed it was part of Virginia, but apparently it's a separate thing. Okay, so, and the reason why you want to know this has more to do with later on when you do some advertising. And for instance, if I don't know, let's say 400 people from Delaware ordered and the rest is all 100 people, okay, then it might be worth to just target Delaware for your advertising. Okay, now in this case, you know, even though I did not do very elaborate research, I just did this to as an example, more or less, but let's just assume that this is like complete data. Okay, now you can say, so if you make a profile based on the data you have, for WhatAFit, like the brand WhatAFit, the average customer is a man in a relationship with children, who has pets, likes playing video games, probably lives in California and is likely to make a purchase in April, May or September. Again, I cannot emphasize enough that the data pool needs to be larger if you're building a real profile. But I hope this kind of shows you what data can do for you. And again, if you include the other two brands, you like the top three, I think it was Whatafit, Simplify and Let's Fit, I believe. If you include those three, you will get a customer profile of the product within the market niche itself. Okay, but for our purpose, let's just stick with the Whatafit customer profile. Now the last thing I want to show you is this sheet. Here I solely check the reason for purchase. Again, this is something we also derive from the reviews. But unlike when we built the customer profile, all you need to do is scan read reviews on the listing itself. You really don't need to go very deep. It's all about volume, not so much about specific information. Once again, I have done some work, just so you get the idea. Now, an important thing to understand is that you're trying to find out what the intent of the purchase is. And that sometimes requires you to interpret what people are saying. So for instance, when someone says in their review that they have struggled with their weight their entire lives, then it's safe to assume that they have a certain fear of going to the gym, even if they don't explicitly tell so in their review. So being able to read between the lines and employ a certain level of empathy in your research is very, very important. You may have noticed that we haven't included market size or sales estimates. We're going to be addressing that in our product research, so don't really worry about that for now. The main thing you should take away by doing this is that you will develop a real sense of the market and the people who buy these products. So this was it for market research. In the next video we're going to be talking about product research, and then in the final lesson we're going to tie everything together. So thank you for watching, please hit that like and subscribe button, and have a great day and a great weekend. See you, bye bye.